So we are at 7:30. I'd call the meeting of January 21st. Will join us shortly. January 21st school board business meeting to session, and we'll start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance if you choose. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now that we're in order, the first step here, or the order of business, is to go over the organization of the board. So we'll start with accepting nominations for board chair. Do we have a nomination for board chair?
I'd like to nominate Jake Carnop for board chair.
Stark nominates Carnop for board chair. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? 3 times for everyone. With no other nominations, we will vote via roll call for board chair. Anna, and this was a roll call, sorry. So Anna?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
With that, the majority of the votes for board member Carnop as board chair for 2025 is in effect. Next up, I would entertain a motion of nomination for vice chair.
I'll nominate Nikki Anna.
We have a nomination for Nikki Anna for vice chair. Do we have any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will do a roll call vote again for Vice Chair Anna. We'll start with Stark.
Sorry, what? I'm sorry.
Yes or no?
Yes,
okay.
sorry. I was trying to cheat off your notes because I didn't write it down.
Carnop is yes. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. With that, Anna. Nikki Anna will be our board vice chair for 2025. Next up, I would look for a nomination for our treasurer position.
Oh, I nominate Sarah Jones.
We have a nomination of Sarah Jones for the position of treasurer. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will vote via roll call for the nomination of Ms. Jones for treasurer position. We'll start with Stark.
Aye.
Carnop is aye. Anna, aye.
Aye, yep.
With that, by the majority of votes, Member Jones is going to be our treasurer for 2025. Lastly, as far as nominating positions go, I would look for a nomination for the clerk position. Do I have
I nominate Ivana Stark.
We have a nomination for Ivana Stark for the position of clerk for 2025. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? With no other nominations, we will do a roll call vote. We will start with Jones.
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
And Carnop is aye. And with the majority vote, that makes Ivana Stark our clerk for 2025. That is done, thankfully. Next
I'm
up.
glad I wasn't the only one who had to cheat off your paper.
Next up, we will have the approval of the agenda with suggested motions and resolutions. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the agenda, suggested motions and resolutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We'll go motion by Jones, second by
Second.
Stark. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Next up on the agenda, we have Dr. Lewis's superintendent report. Dr. Lewis, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chair Carnop. I first would like to just have a message of gratitude to our law enforcement. As we all know, last week, Fridley Public Schools and our law enforcement team worked hand in hand to ensure the safety of our community. I have invited them to our February board meeting. So Lieutenant Titus, Officers Nico and Dave, our SROs, and I will be giving an update. I'm also thinking about whether I want to ask to be put on the city council agenda to also do a joint presentation there. So right now we're going to do the school district one. You might recognize a newer name on here, Lieutenant Titus. Lieutenant Titus, a while ago, was an SRO for the school system, and Lieutenant Faber has actually been or is in the process of being promoted. So effective January 1st, Lieutenant Titus became the right-hand person that I work with, which let's just laugh at him coming into this situation as his kind of welcome to the district. And he supervises the investigation unit and many other places. And Officer Nico and Officer Dave are part of the investigations. Last week, it was just exceptional support. In talking to other superintendents throughout that week, I know that the level of support that we have with our Fridley Police Department is unmatched. It's also not by accident. So I think sometimes in school district matters, when it comes to police matters, law enforcement matters, sometimes you'll see that tension. I have to tell you, there wasn't one moment of tension that we had, and we each stayed in our respective lanes. We communicated together, we communicated jointly. They asked me to look at their press releases. I ran all communication by them. So it was just phenomenal, but I really want to get them in front of our board and for us to just share with you what that really looked like last week as a combined unit and how we did that. And more importantly, I just really want them to be honored and appreciated. So that's just a teaser for February. Next up, we are absolutely thrilled to honor our Employee of Excellence, Mary Henry, who is our communications specialist, and Lori Andler, who oversees our comms team, is going to share all of the wonderful gifts and talents that Mary brings to her role. Oh, here you go. 1 second. Oh, you got it.
All right. Mary Henry exemplifies excellence in her role as communications specialist with Fridley Public Schools. Her diverse contributions are instrumental in maintaining effective communication and engagement across our district. Mary is a skilled designer, creating marketing materials that cater to all ages and levels, tailored for various events and informational needs. She manages the district's social media presence, ensuring timely and relevant updates, and keeps the information on building TV monitors current and engaging. In addition to her design work, Mary is a creative force behind many of the key district publications, including the district bulletin, calendar, registration guides, and the Parent-Student Handbook, among others. Her attention to detail and dedication to quality ensure these materials meet the highest standards. Mary's positive and supportive attitude shines through in everything she does. She goes above and beyond by capturing memorable moments at award ceremonies, family nights, and other events through her photography. Always open to new ideas, Mary is willing to explore innovative approaches and contributes her own thoughtful suggestions when invited. Mary's commitment, creativity, and enthusiasm make her an invaluable member of our team, and we are proud to recognize her as the Employee of Excellence.
Thank you so much, Lori. Next, I want to talk with you about compensatory revenue. You've heard me talk about compensatory revenue in the past, and this past summer, fall, I talked about that Minnesota Department of Education made a change to compensatory revenue. The change that MDE made was something called counting direct certification. So in the state of Minnesota, if you are eligible to be on Medicaid, on SNAP, on WIC, and many other subsidy programs, you automatically qualify in our district and every district for free and reduced lunch. One can pause and say, why does it matter anymore, right? What this is really about is free and reduced lunch now that it is free to all students for breakfast and lunch. What we're talking about here is how districts have additional streams of revenue. So compensatory revenue is really about recognizing the complex needs of districts with higher percentage of students who qualify as free and reduced. And so in the past, both the form that families would fill out or direct certification would be counted in our compensatory revenue. This change happened through MDE, and now you'll see, without absent legislative action, Fridley will realize more than $1 million of revenue loss. We actually have higher percentage of students qualifying free and reduced lunch year over year, but it's this direct certification. We actually have a very high direct certification rate, but they're now not counting our forms. So then we lose ground because they're not counting our forms. So this year, and the way comp ed works, compensatory revenue works, is the money comes 1 year delayed. So this year reflects last year's students. Also remember, we have over 100 more students this year, right? So this year we realized $6,663,282.70. Absent action, we're going to see $5,646,003.17. This is a piece that is extremely concerning to me. So there's this side of the equation. Another part of compensatory revenue is something that we're working on in lobbying is this hold harmless. So they keep redoing the formula different than what we're talking about here. And so districts, absent legislative action, will get yet another hit when the formula, and this is supposed to be us being held harmless. But what happened is they changed who counts and doesn't count. And that doesn't make sense, because even though you're not direct certified, that doesn't mean you don't meet income guidelines to qualify. So districts are really highly being penalized here. Our district, Richfield, Minneapolis, I think you get the trend here of who I'm sharing. We're bearing the burden very heavy. So I am very concerned about this, and you will see some action steps here later in the presentation. The next item I want to share with you is really talking about our tax impact. So I want you to take this visual here of rounding the track, okay? So hold that in your mind as I talk about this. So if all things were equal, we put together, this is through Ellers, Matt Hammer, our financial advisor. So I asked him to put together what is our actual current reality in Fridley, because you hear this term about equalization, equalization, equalization. So if you look for every district here, this is on a $350,000 residential home. Now that doesn't mean in Fridley it's near average, right? Little bit above. That doesn't mean that that's the average home price in Hopkins, but we wanted to show the exact same value so that you could see the difference. So if you look at estimated taxpayer cost to add $100 more per student of voter-approved operating referendum authority, if you go down to Fridley, it's $44. If you go to Minneapolis Public Schools, it's $15. Can you flip back to the track? So, Fridley homeowners are running 2.93 times around the track when a Minneapolis homeowner is running once. This is why equalization is so critical. You'll see Fridley is 6th worst in the metro. It's just, we have to work on this. Here you'll see the 7-county metro area voter approved authority. So we have a double hit here. And again, this is with successful passage, which I appreciate. We all appreciate our voters entrusting us with that and making that financial sacrifice. But you can see here, we're certainly not at the cap like some of our metro districts are, or near the cap. So this brings me to, I'm going to talk with you about several legislative priorities tonight. So here are the AMSD Priorities Association of Metro School Districts, of which Fridley is one of the districts. Increase the formula allowance by 3% over current law for fiscal year 26 and 27. So if you recall back, we're in the second year. Formula enhancement was 4% and then 2%. As you remember from the referendum work, this does not even meet the inflation, let alone all the other pieces. Looking at increasing local optional revenue from $724 to $974 per pupil to recover the ground loss to inflation since it was established in 2014. So inflation wasn't put into the local optional revenue. We are all very supportive of the fact that our school district employees that are not on contract during the summer, such as paraeducators, are able to get unemployment. We are very thankful for that. We're also very thankful for the expansion of earned safe and sick time. However, those mandates came to the school system, but the funding didn't. So those cost the district money, higher unemployment premiums, higher costs in sub rates, subs, all of those pieces, those are at a fiscal cost. So when we talk about unfunded mandates, this is one example. Another example, we are very thankful for the need, and we understand that we must implement the READ Act. When you look at our student data across the state, including in Fridley, we must improve. Our student data is unacceptable when it comes to proficiency, and our teachers and our staff have embraced the READ Act as a model district. We have also made it so that our teachers get paid for their time to do this, which makes sense. I'm roughly calculating $400,000 a year in cost, and we receive $160,000 in aid. That's for 1 year. So as we think about that, we need to keep doing that. Think about districts larger than us and what that costing looks like. So these are things AMSD is advocating for all of its member districts so that we have one agenda. Stabilize compensatory funding formula by including additional criteria to identify families and students. I'm going to talk about one more thing here in addition to the other two pieces I shared. One of the segments that is growing in Fridley and growing in many urban districts are students who either are undocumented or are from families that are undocumented. Obviously, we can agree there's complex needs that are associated to our student group. They don't have a way to qualify currently for the district to receive revenue to help to support those complex needs. One of the pieces I'm asking our board in particular to really have your ears open to, and this is coming from a place of goodness and a place where our legislatures want to make a difference. We are hearing things like, when I elevate this about undocumented, our district is one of the kind of leaders in this, because not all districts are facing this. You will hear things like, we are looking to add that to the EL formula. That doesn't help Fridley. And I need us to really be advocating here, because every time I say it, the legislator will say, oh yes, thank you for that reminder. I say, most of our undocumented students that are coming in are from families where they would not qualify for EL. Very different than when you see undocumented coming into St. Paul. So St. Paul and us have the same ask. St. Paul is okay with the EL part. That doesn't work for our district. So just wanted to really thoroughly explain that piece to you. The next piece regarding the AMSD priorities is increase the allowance for extended time programming. So when you think of the Lavinia work that we are doing during our summer program, which by the way we're expanding to elementary, when you think of the after school targeted services program, of which Lavinia, we are following that program through the middle school, and We funded that with ESSER last year. We're using compensatory ed and other ways now, but we need more of that extended time revenue to do that. Reduce the cross subsidies in the special ed and English learner programs. That sounds counter. Why would we want to reduce cross subsidy? In this situation, what it means is, since special education and EL programming is federally and state mandated, we are asking for there to actually be no cross subsidies. So what we're saying is, before the last legislative session, about 67% of a school district's cost for serving students who are on an IEP was reimbursed by the state, 67%. Where does the rest of it come from? The general fund. Now we're up to between 80 and 88%. Better. But we're still looking at 12 to 20% that is being cross-subsidized by the general fund. So that's what we mean about decreasing cross-subsidy. I oftentimes hear people refer to that difference between the 67% and the 80% as the cross-subsidy. It's actually what's coming out of your general fund. So I wanted to talk about why some people might say, don't reduce the cross-subsidy. We want to eliminate it. We want it 100% funded. Strengthening programs such as Grow Your Own and teacher apprenticeship programs. So 916 and all of the member districts, the intermediate districts in Minnesota, have a teacher apprenticeship program, and 288 is actually the fiscal agent on that. But any district that's a member of the 4 intermediates, there's a list of approved universities you've probably, and college programs that you've seen in the superintendent update. A portion of that tuition is paid through that teacher apprenticeship. We also have the Grow Your Own. We want to keep that so that we can have teachers who move into hard to fill shortage areas and they don't have to worry about any tuition burden. Our grant covers every tuition. However, we were leveraging something called the Come Teach in Minnesota dollars. Come Teach in Minnesota was for candidates of color, teachers of color, to come from outside of our state and come into our district, and the district got 100% reimbursed. We gave $5,000 on one of their initial paychecks for them, and then after 5 years they would get a $5,000 retention bonus, 100% reimbursed. Well, I was sharing about this as I share about international talent, and in a very good way, that money is gone. So we don't want this same thing to happen to Grow Your Own and teacher apprenticeship. We also want to see that Come Teach in Minnesota money back. Increase equalization of the operating referendum, local optional, and debt service levies. So all of this is essentially what I illustrated. That's why I gave you the track image. I think it's, when I talk about equalization, I think that's a little bit hard to understand. I think when you talk to your legislators about, we're running 2.93 times around the track when Minneapolis is running 1 time, I think that sinks in. So that's the AMSD priorities, and every single one of these really speaks to our needs here in Fridley. SAF is Schools Advocating for Fair Funding. This used to be called C. C has reinvented itself into SAF. So if you click on this, you'll see what SAF is here. And then you will also see next that running around the track, thank you, Lori, for expanding that. The running around the track actually gets worse on this next slide. So not only did you see the Metro, here SAF pulls for us the annual taxpayer cost for the same levy amount. So you see Fridley's at $11.92, Eden Prairie's at $3.38, Hopkins is at $4.42, Wayzata $6.58, Roseville $8.46. Is Northland outstate? I think Northland here is an outstate one. You can again see where we rate. Cook County is definitely out of the metro. So again, equalization is so important for us. I talk a lot about we need to get money on the percent increase, but these other pieces will help us as well. And SAF, this is, as you click to the next slide here, you'll see, do you mind doing their legislative platform? It's actually very simple. Make education-related levies fairer and more consistent. Improve the stability of school funding to promote greater fairness. And SAF is very simple here. The quality of a student's education should not depend on their zip code. So this really talks about where Fridley, every bit of this is speaking to our district and what we need around fairness when it comes to tax equalization and tax base. Next, I wanted to elevate for you the MSBA, Minnesota School Boards Association legislative platform here. Again, you can see ourselves in this legislative platform. Theirs has a few more items here. Again, it talks about compensatory. Compensatory is a huge area that must be improved. Talks about local school board authority, restoring managerial rights, capital project levies, all of these things. Also data requests. I had briefly talked to our board about this. When we get a data request, it is Lori's time to go through, and it's our tech team's time, and those data requests can be everything from please provide us with the names and email addresses, position, and address of all Fridley Public Schools, to some much more invasive that involved a keyword search, I don't want to share that here because I don't want to open us up to more data requests. You'll see a story that came out a while ago out of Rochester Public Schools, Owatonna, 6 figures that they are spending on these data requests. And we've had this experience too. The data request doesn't stop. So we provide that, then they want more, then they want more, then they want more. And I am not saying that we are asking, nor is MSBA asking to hide this. It's just saying when you ask us for this information to pull it, we just need reimbursement for the actual cost. We're not looking for money to, make money on these. We just need that. There's some other pieces here about open meeting law, stabilizing the workforce, standardized testing for high school. Some of us were at AMSD, and it talked about ACT is just a much better standardized test for high schools rather than just looking at solely MCAs. So that is what you'll see there for the MSBA platform. Okay, here's the foreshadow. Director Stark. Did I miss something? My apologies. Okay. I was so excited about this too. Okay. We are working on getting this. So today, and I'm just going to read this, I texted Senator Kanesh and said, "Hi again, Senator Kanesh." She checked in on me last week, so it was so sweet. I said, "Brenda Lewis here, FPS Superintendent. I know you understand the issues with compensatory and the urgency. I wanted to let you know that this year our FPS is receiving $6,663,282.70 in revenue. Next year we will receive $5,646,003.17 in revenue. This is a $1 million drop. We can't shoulder this burden here locally. As you know, the needs of our students continue to be more complex. The direct certification piece is a detriment to our district. Thanks for listening and prioritizing this to be fixed during the session." She wrote back, "I hear you." She knows I know that, but I get your issue. We're working to fix it. Appreciate you reaching out. I bet you're ready to get back on schedule. Best wishes to you and your staff, families, and students. So this is an example of keeping this front and center. And notice I didn't say you need to work on comp ed. I had her see Fridley's taking $1 million hit. So that's the kind of work that lies ahead of us to help with our district short-term and long-term fiscal outlook. Next steps that I'm recommending for board members are our board, along with the superintendent, to actively engage in AMSD, SAF, and MSBA. You heard all those legislative platforms. Also, understanding the delegate assembly process. Deepen the understanding of legislative platforms and their impact on education. So just now, I was able to give you, hey, the READ Act is $400,000 in cost, and we're getting maybe $160 in revenue. Those are talking points that you can easily use. Meet with representatives to advocate for district priorities and debunk funding myths. What do I mean by this? You got landfill funding last time, Brenda. You got that. Did we though? When you look at that, yes, we got $160,000 more a year for literacy at the cost of $400,000. So this is where we just use the data and the facts. Continued work. I know we've had board members continuing to work on those MSBA trainings, phase 2, 3, and 4, the board chats. How do we really strengthen those governance skills, and also to network with one another so that we find like districts. 2 weeks ago, at AMSD, we heard vastly different districts. We heard Anoka Hennepin, we heard Prior Lake Savage, and St. Anthony New Brighton, and we saw ourselves in all of those districts, and that was purposefully done by AMSD. But that's a time for us as superintendents and for our board to connect with those various stakeholders that, hey, St. Anthony New Brighton has the equalization problem too, and how do we work on that? Clarify the board's role in funding advocacy to drive meaningful change. So how do we as a board really work to leverage our advocacy so that our legislators understand that true need, and our public, right? We know we can't go back to our voters. They just overwhelmingly, resoundingly told us they support us, but we need the funding to come from somewhere. And so when board members have this data, then our legislators can clearly understand what the issue is versus just broad talking points. And then just us continuing to uphold board member, superintendent, fiduciary responsibilities through our informed decision making and strategic actions. So for example, we are not settling for this compensatory ed for $1 million to reduce. We know we have to go after that because it's not acceptable to happen in our district. With that, I think this is later on the agenda, or do you want us to do it now? If you don't mind, board, if there's any other updates too, you can add these, but I have Northeast Metro 916 for board member Jones, and then also the MSBA conference and board chair Carnup for AMSD. Yeah, please.
The governor released his budget late last week, and I'm wondering if AMSD have they been able to report, are the numbers in the budget satisfactory for the needs? And they might not know yet.
So the resounding answer is no.
Okay.
It's really pretty. I know
Okay.
that sounded like really.
Yeah, no. I'm
usually
just
I give a
curious,
longer.
like $40 million for compensatory aid. What should we be asking for? I'm just kind of
And
curious.
this is where watch too all of those updates we put in the superintendent update, because it'll laser like focus in on that. Right now, the compensatory pot is down $35 million, and remember, statewide, it was supposed to be held harmless. So we have that double hit. $35 million reduction, which hasn't been explained, and we've asked numerous times. And then the $1 million of loss, and that's simply on our forms. That's not even shrinking of the pie. So that's just an example of one small component of the overall bigger budget. When we're looking at formula enhancement of 3% on top of the 2 and 2.3, 5.3, that's just a 1-year enhancement. That's not in there to that level. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Any other questions before I defer to Board Member Jones and Chair Cornup?
I think we're good.
So I wanted to give a quick update on 916, and I know we haven't talked about what's happening there super recently, but I know that lots of us are familiar with with our partnership there. So 916 is the intermediate school district that we partner with, and they serve. They had their annual update for us. So they serve 5,789 students last school year, and that's in a combination of special ed, career and tech, serving students within their own home districts through their ALCs and in care and treatment. So those are 5 different areas where they have students that they serve. And there are a number of advantages that we have as we're partnering with them, things like their teacher apprenticeship program and the tuition reimbursement or training that some of our staff are able to access as we partner with them. And they have highly partnered with us as we opened Vista this past year. Their team came and gave us lots of wisdom and insights as we were building out that facility, what would work well for the students that we knew we needed to serve, and we're really thankful for them in just sharing that knowledge with us as we start down that path. And one celebration, they have an ALC that is right here in Fridley across from City Hall, Metro Heights Academy. I got to tour there last year and met some of their students and their admin team, and one celebration that I was really excited about for them was that they graduated 45 students from their ALC this winter. So halfway through the year, they've graduated 45 students, which I thought was so fantastic. They also have a large career and tech program at Century College, and I wanted to invite you to join me at their open house, but it is on the 30th of January and we will be at the gala. So we will not be there. I'm so sad because I went to the program last year and it was phenomenal getting to see all of the different ways that they're training students. So those are things that I wanted to just update us on regarding 916, because I know we haven't really talked about some of the advantages or partnerships that we have there at the moment. Laura, are there any other fantastic things that we should be celebrating or sharing from there? I'm so sorry. That's on the spot.
No, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes.
For being on the board.
Of course. So phenomenal. Okay. Do you want me to keep going to MSBA? Okay. Great. So last week, MSBA held their annual conference. MSBA is the Minnesota School Board Association, and it is comprised of all of the school boards in the state. Some things to share from there. They had their district directors. The school boards in the state are broken up into districts. We are in District 5. There was an election for the director of District 5, and Michelle Langenfield from Anoka-Hennepin was reelected for a 3-year term to that. One thing to note that I had also seen in Dr. Lewis's action points was that the delegate assembly through MSBA will be open for new elections this year to 2-year terms to be on their delegate assembly. So that would be an opportunity that we could investigate and continue to learn more about and partake in as this year continues to go on. A couple other things that I learned there. Dr. Lewis shared their legislative platform. They will be hosting virtual weekly Friday chats as the legislative session is happening. They're Friday mornings at 9:30, and they start this week. So the 24th is the first one. I sent an email to MSBA and I'm going to be on the link list. So if you're interested in that, I can share that contact with you, or you can find that on their website. And additionally, in terms of what we heard from Dr. Lewis, they also are sponsoring a day at the Capitol in partnership with MASA. And that will be on March 10th from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. The signups are not active yet, but they will be coming soon on their website. And I heard that they will even be making appointments with our legislators for us at that session. So I think as soon as you sign up, that day will just be scheduled and full for you. So if anybody's available to join on that day, that would be fantastic as soon as the signups are open. I don't know. Is there info that we want on I also went to a session on the model cell phone policy, which is not released yet, but they are, that info was the last details were being vetted by their legal team at the beginning of this week, and it should be released at the end of next week. So that is what I heard. More info to come on that shortly from them. It'll be published later this week. So I think those are all of the things that I have for those two.
Thanks for your work on both those,
Yeah.
Sarah. I mean, that's like a lot of responsibility, and you're killing it. So, thanks a lot. For AMSD, I'm not going to echo too much of what Dr. Lewis brought before us, but I would just add, kind of from my perspective, one of the things that I kind of observed is that we're not alone, right? There are a lot of school districts in the state of Minnesota that have our similar issues with finance and funding. So it was really reassuring to see, like the superintendent of Prior Lake, Savage, right? He talked about if it wasn't for our recent levy, we would be upside down. And he said pretty clearly that in 3 years, if something isn't changed, they'll be upside down again. And he kind of just said a lot of things that we say. We know that our voters are getting fatigued. We know that we can't continue to go back to that well. We don't want to. We just want it to be done right. And then really just seeing, this idea of the zip code, right? The funding should not be determined by the zip code in which you live in. And with it being basketball season, I see this quite frequently. We were just out at the Monticello High School for a tournament last weekend, and that place looks like a Taj Mahal compared to any other high school that I've ever been in. So clearly, that zip code, those kids have a different life and what they see when they walk through the front doors, and there's certainly some discrepancy there. That said, most of the people in the room realize that, regardless of where they're from, and they realize the inequities there. And I think there's a little level of optimism listening to the politicians that were there on the committee answering questions, and there's some room for us to make some headway there. So that's really about it. But with that, Dr. Lewis, do you have anything else in your agenda?
I just sent to you all the link to the Friday MSBA chat room. It is so simple. I did it right now, although I was fully attending. You just click on the link and click add to calendar, Google Calendar, and it pops right up there. With that, again, thank you for the understanding last week, and then of course today. On that, I had a community member that texted me and said, I don't envy you. You have the lives of thousands of people in your mind, and that's your decision. So thanks for your great support. And more to come in February. You'll hear the behind the scenes of all that went on. So thank you.
Awesome, thanks. And I'd be remiss, and I think I can speak for the board of the gratitude, as Dr. Lewis had mentioned, to our Fridley Police Department. They did a fantastic job in working with us in the last week. It seems like it's even been longer, but also the board's sincere gratitude to Dr. Lewis and her staff, navigating us through what could have been a pretty tricky time. The people that I've talked to in the community have had very positive things to say about the level of communication, how things were communicated, and from what I can tell, I think there's a very strong confidence in going back to school tomorrow. So thank you again, everybody.
Thanks.
So with that, did we approve the agenda? We did. So we're up to business action items. I would entertain a motion to approve the school board organization and annual authorizations for 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Next up, I would entertain a motion to accept some gifts. The following persons and express, not only accept our gifts, but express our gratitude and send thanks. The following persons donated to Hayes and Stevenson schools. Fridley United Women of Faith donated $725 for each school to be used for students in need. The chair would entertain a motion
So moved.
to accept. Thank you. Motion made by Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anna. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Anna?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Carnop is aye, and Ms. Stark?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have the one reading needed for the adoption of policies, specifically Policy 519, which covers interviews of students by outside agencies. Policy 701, which is the establishment and adoption of the school district budget. Policy 721, uniform guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources. I would entertain a motion to accept the one reading of those policies.
So moved.
Motion made by Anna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jones. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Lastly, before our dates, I would entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda, which will approve the minutes of the business meeting held on December 17th. Cover new contracts, amendments, leave of absences, resignations and terminations, and the monthly financial reports. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anna. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Lori, is there anything else before I jump into the dates? Dr. Lewis?
Thank you, Chair.
An update that I just got as a parent. So we originally were slated for Personal Project Celebration Night tomorrow, January 22nd. It will now be for sophomores as who we have the personal projects. I would love for all the board to come invite you. Now it's going to be Wednesday, January 29th from 3:30 to 5. Students will be working with their language and Lang and Lit teachers and project supervisors to continue preparing to share their projects. So I just wanted to make sure you got that one.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And how did you get that update? Did one of your children send that to you to remind you, or?
They're live streaming. Otherwise, I would say if it was my girls, yes. My sweet Uko has gifts and talents in different areas. This came from the school.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, but he has gifts and talents too.
Okay, so speaking of dates, Stevenson PTO meeting is on January 22nd at 5:30 at Stevenson. The Fridley High School Music Department fundraiser, which is a lip sync contest, is January 24th, 7 o'clock at the District Auditorium. Incoming 5th grade parent night, January 29th, also at 5 o'clock at the Fridley Middle School. And then we also have on the 29th, incoming 9th grade registration night, 6 o'clock at the Fridley High School. Hayes has books and bingo on January 30th at 5 o'clock at Hayes Elementary. And of course, we have the Black and Gold Gala on January 30th at 5:30 at Jack's Cafe in Northeast Minneapolis. And Lori, I think tickets are still on sale until Thursday, right? So go out and get your tickets if you haven't yet. We'll see you there.
Don't forget to book your babysitter.
Don't forget to book your babysitter. Have you had that problem before?
Well, now that my mom has moved
Okay.
out, but I've got two really great ones in the wings ready to come over.
I've heard. I think you're covered. All right. No school for staff development on January 31st. Hayes conferences will be on February 5th at 4 o'clock at Hayes Elementary. Stevenson conferences will be on the same day, February 5th at 4 o'clock at Stevenson. The Free Family Moving Night Inside Out 2 will be on February 7th at 7 o'clock at the District Auditorium. We have the Fridley High School Snow Week from February 10th through 14th at the Fridley High School. On February 10th, we have African American Parent Involvement Day throughout the district. Continuation of conferences at Hayes and Stevenson on February 11th at 4 o'clock at both their respective schools. The 6th grade band and choir winter concert will be on February 11th at 7 o'clock at the Fridley Middle School gym. Hayes and Stevenson conferences again on February 13th, 4 o'clock at their respective schools. And then the Fridley Middle School History Day on February 13th, 5:30, of course, at the Fridley Middle School. At the Early Child ECFE Friendship Dance on February 15th at 4 o'clock here at the Fridley Community Center. Then we have no school as it's a district holiday on February 17th. And then the next school board meeting will be on February 18th here at the Community Center with a 5:30 work session, 7 o'clock public comment, 7:30 business meeting. Are there any dates that I missed that anyone can think of?
No, but I will say that the friendship dance is absolutely worth it. It is the cutest thing you have ever seen in your entire life. Huntley
Awesome.
loves it.
Does he have his outfit picked out yet?
He might wear his suit from the wedding.
There you go. All right, so if there are no other dates or any items of business here, I would suggest a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Stark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anna. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned at 8:22. Thank you, everybody.